Hi, and welcome. My name is Lisa, and I am the Executive Director of the Multnomah Athletic Foundation. And today we have an absolute treat for us. We have some special guests with us. Mind Matters has been a sponsor of the Spinathon for many years. And with that, they are very dedicated to access and participation for youth, not only in education, but also in athletics. So, what we thought we would do this year is to bring three of them together to talk to us a little bit about what sports psychiatry means, but more importantly, what mental health means to all of us and how staying active can be a really important part of that. So, I am so excited to have all three of them with us here today. And we're going to start with some general introductions. Then I've got a couple questions for them, and we'll see what sort of things that they're willing to share with us. So to begin with, let's start first of all with Bong. So tell us who you are and a little bit about yourself, and then we'll throw the ball over to the next person.
Hi there, I'm Vong, Dr. Vu, I guess. I'm originally from California. I did my medical and residency training out in Wisconsin. Um, Only, I would say, uh, years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I started to learn more about the sports psychiatry field, and I was working with my colleague out in Wisconsin, Dr. Claudia Reardon. And through her and the International Society of Sports Psychiatry, I met Dr. Dave. And then last year, I approached him about possible job opportunities, and the rest is history, I guess. He was able to woo me to come to Oregon, and haven't looked back since. So probably the biggest part of that was the opportunity to start our sports psychiatry center, and here we are, actually getting it off the ground running, and very excited about the opportunity to provide sports psychiatry care out here.
Fantastic. And I'm sure moving to the Pacific Northwest didn't hurt at all either, right? All right. So the next person I'd like you guys to meet is Anastasia.
I'm Anastasia Dr. Jones. I am a clinical psychologist with an emphasis in sports and athletic performance and psychology. I work at Mind Matters as well as a therapist, providing services to individuals as well as athletes. I'm also very excited to be a part of this team and kind of start this sports psychiatry clinic from the ground up and being able to provide services to athletes of all ages and all kinds in the Pacific Northwest.
Fantastic. Thank you. And Dr. Dave, it seems to be you're responsible for pulling these people together. So who are you and how did that work?
Hi, I'm Dave Conant Norvell. I'm a child and adolescent and general psychiatrist, and I was actually one of the co-founders of Mind Matters, and I'm the clinical director there, and also the impetus behind starting our sports psychiatry center. And I'm so happy to have my two colleagues here that made it all happen. Lisa, you need to know that part of the recruitment was to have Vong come and do a spin class with you. So, right. So he saw the Mac from the inside out and knew that that's why he wanted to come to Oregon. Well, I grew up in Portland, and I went to Cleveland High School, and I took swimming lessons at Mac when I was a little kid. And I was on the 8th grade Pop Warner team back a zillion years ago when they actually had such a thing. And so I've seen Mac grow as I've grown. And I've been very excited to watch the evolution of Mac and the development of the foundation and its prominent place at Mac now. So this is very exciting because I've been involved in sports my whole life, and I did like 5 or 6 sports in high school when you could do such a thing, and I played soccer at Stanford when I was there for a few years, and I've just gone on. And right now my sport is Taekwondo, and of course, back to spin classes with Lisa when they happen again, right, Lisa?
Absolutely. Sunday morning,
Yeah.
that was the time that we all got together.
So
and you know
go ahead.
No, I was going to say what I think that's interesting about the spinathon and the spin classes, since Dave brought it up, is that so much of athletics is about it's about being on a team. it's about the connection to other people and about the ability to work through something with something, success and failure. But it's working on a team and it's having that community. And I know that the team approach to mental health and to sports psychology is really important to all of you, especially at Mind Matters. So why don't you guys tell me a little bit about what that team approach means to you guys and what your specialties are in this new, lovely, forming, amazing work that you're doing. So I'm going to hand the baton back to Dr. Vong. So tell me a little bit about the team approach from your perspective, and what is it that your specialty or your area of specialty is?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So we meet actually around this time at about an hour each week at minimum, where we discuss either joint patients or just cases in general that we might have questions about, and it's this protected time that we space out for each other. You know, my particular specialty, so I'm board certified in adult psychiatry, and then have the certificate of additional training in sports psychiatry. I primarily focus on, I would say, late adolescence, so 16 and up, and then even, you know, into adulthood, you know, master's level, and then maybe less so on even into late adulthood as well. And then in terms of the team approach, you know, we all have different backgrounds of training, so it's very helpful to get those different perspectives from each other in terms of if we don't have the answers, then we can definitely refer to two other people that are very specialized and very knowledgeable, and I know I can depend on them too.
Terrific. And if this were a track and field event, the baton would now go over to Anastasia. So tell us a little bit about the team approach and what your specialty is and how that kind of rounds out what you guys do.
Yeah, I feel like the team approach for mental health is like super important because again, like Vong said, like everybody brings a different like component to the table. And so sometimes I think just like a more holistic approach or a more group approach can kind of really help the team or the athlete or like the individual coming in. I think also like all my training has been like within a team approach and always has been really comprehensive. So like this just feels like home to me. Like my whole training has always been like, you're not the only person at the table. Like there are multiple other people there who are trying to provide the best help to that person. So I just like it, like, again, to bounce off ideas and get help. But I also just think it's the best way to give any client that we have the best care at the end of the day. And I would say like my specialty, like I have most of my training has actually been in college settings in athletic departments. So I did my postdoc like fellowship at WSU last year, where I was part of the athletic medicine team. Like I was officially part of the team, providing like therapy and mental health resources to all the athletes there. So that's kind of my specialty is college athletes. I was at another university prior to that doing very similar things where I work with either the team or the individual, but kind of like that older college age population is kind of my focus in the area I like to work on, whether it's performance-based or mental health-based. But as a clinical psychologist, my first and foremost thing I want to take care of is the person's mental health.
Got it. Wonderful. And that means you spent a very cold winter in Wisconsin, right? Or not, pardon me,
No,
Washington. Washington.
Yep.
Washington. Got it.
Yep.
There we go. All right. And so, Dr. Dave, to you, the team approach, what does it mean to you and Mind Matters, since you've been on this journey with Mind Matters from the beginning? And what is your specialty? How does that kind of bring together as the team from your perspective, how you care for patients?
Thanks for asking. We have about 4 hours, don't we? No, I'll spare everybody. But, you know, we started Mind Matters about 20 years ago with this whole idea of child psychiatry required a team. You know, psychiatrists, we're medical specialists and we're physicians. And we realized that we couldn't do it all. If we tried to, we didn't do a very good job, and we had no access to other people. So we started building teams of folks with all sorts of specialty training in mental health treatment. And we found that this worked quite well. And we continued to add as we realized we had to build teams around families. It wasn't about around an individual, it's around a family. And we've taken this model into sports because, I mean, sports is about teams. Even individual sports is about teams. And so there are teams, everyone plays a role, and everybody shows respect for everybody else and tries to work to their best at their level and then turn it over to others. For example, you know, I'm not the world's expert on what it's like to be a female athlete. Anastasia was a female athlete in college. And not only that, is that she's female and she's worked in colleges with other female athletes. So I defer a lot of my questions to her. And for athletes that come in that need a psychiatric assessment and therapy, it would be a natural handoff to Anastasia. And for others, that maybe Vong is a better choice for lots of reasons. And so we try to, when people come in, we try to make sure that we have a good assessment, and then we have a good team approach. So we bring multiple perspectives in, and that's good for an individual athlete, but it's also good for team consultations and even organizational consultations where you have multiple points of view.
Well, before I go to the next question, let me ask you this, because you guys talk about a team approach, and obviously it is clearly embedded in each and every one of you that you have been an athlete, or at least you've been participating in athletics. And part of that, we started our early conversation talking about being coachable as well as being a coach, and to be able to be both. So here's my question before you get the next real question. What is your sport of choice? Dr. Dave, you said you're currently working on Taekwondo. Do you want to add something else to that list before I bounce it off to the other two?
I play every sport.
There you go.
You know, I coached soccer. I played soccer. I did a zillion sports in high school. Taekwondo, I've been doing that for 12 years now. And okay. I'm third degree black belt, and continue to work towards being a master someday by the time I'm 70 maybe. And I mean, it's been an evolution of sporting experiences. And the most important thing, quite frankly, is to be active and continue to build both cognitively, emotionally, and physically. And that's what sports says for me.
Absolutely. So Dr. Vaughn, I see I automatically add the doctor in there. I just So Vaughn, what's your sport of choice?
I would say the sport that I was actually ever good at was wrestling, but I haven't really been doing as much of that lately. And more recently, as I do for myself and I encourage others, is I'm just trying to be okay with being a novice in other things. So when gyms are reopening, I definitely want to get back into racquetball. I've always found that really fun and a great cardio. I haven't been the best at hand-eye coordination, but it's a lot of fun. And then even I got into boxing in my last year of residency, so I find that to be a lot of enjoyment too.
Nice. Okay. And Anastasia, what about you? What is your sport of choice?
Yes. So currently it's like triathlons and marathon running, but I also was, my parents put me in sports since I was a child. Apparently I was a little bit annoying as a 4-year-old. So I've been kind of doing everything, but in college I played basketball and soccer in college, and then kind of transitioned into more like endurance, like long sports. And I kind of have enjoyment in being like, I'm not competitive, like winning, but I like to just be competitive still and set goals and kind of accomplish them in those manners. So those sports kind of allow me to do that in that way.
Nice. Okay. Well, I think it's interesting. Each and every one of you hit on a certain theme, even without us planning it. And it just kind of segues to the next logical question, is that you talk about learning, trying, being a novice at something, working till you're 70 to master something. But or something like that. But there's an interesting piece there, because I think the next question we wanted to ask each of one of you to wrap this to kind of bring this full circle is, so what is the importance of mental health in athletics? How do you bring those pieces together? And it's interesting that each one of you talked about not necessarily being the best, but to be a novice and to be learning and to be coachable. And I think there's something in there that I'd like to learn a little bit more from each one of you. So tell me a little bit about the importance of mental health and athletics, and what that means to you in the practice here when you are taking care of a patient. So Vong, let me go back and start with you.
Sure, I'll try to unpack that as much as I can and not be too verbose about it all. So I would say not being an elite athlete myself, and I would say, 99% of us are not, but we still find exercise and sports, if it's individual or team sports, as a very important parts of our lives in terms of just something that we enjoy or something that we find as a great outlet to, if it's the rest of our lives or, just something that we want to get better at. So, when I make the comment about it's okay to be a novice at something, and even not even so much as in a physical way, but and just learning something new. An example for myself is that I'm learning chess right now, and I've lost tons of matches, but I made peace with, not being a great chess player, but wanting to learn more about it or something. So in terms of just finding something, if it's physical activity or just something that's very mentally stimulating that is important to us and adds to our lives in that way, especially if it's to distract from whatever other things are going on in our lives, or that we know that it adds to our lives. I would say that's the biggest thing that I find in terms of physical activity, and of course all the physical benefits that we get from it too.
Yeah.
And I guess the last thing I would say is just a balance of not working all the time, but finding that you give that self-care to yourself as well.
Oh boy, that's something in this pandemic environment the last couple of months is really helpful. And I know I read it and I hear it, and practicing it, that's even the
Exactly.
tougher part, isn't it? It is.
Yeah.
It is. All right. Well, thank you for that. Anastasia, what do you think? Talk to us a little bit about the same question to you.
Yeah. So yeah, I kind of agree with everything that was just said. And I think there's actually a lot of research out there that just shows like physical activity, whether it is like within a sport or just exercise, is actually really impactful to your mental health. Like it is shown to decrease depression and anxiety and kind of help in these other ways. I also think that playing sports really builds resilience, and like resilience is really important in times like this, right? With like COVID, right? Where you're kind of being pushed to your limits and having to try new things or learn new things and adapt. And I think there's just something about exercise and sports that kind of allows that, and like just having a good mental health can kind of help you prepare and be prepared for those kinds of things. So I think like I kind of take like a holistic approach when I'm treating people. I think I focus on exercise, sleep, eating, like those 3 components or 4 components are really important for one's mental health and one's well-being. And I think they all add something. And when you don't have one, sometimes you can kind of see them suffering in some way and like having a negative impact. But I think with athletes too, I think we're starting to see that a lot of athletes are coming forward and recognizing that when they are not mentally healthy, they do see a negative impact on their performances, whether it's in their life or in their sport. And so I think what we're starting to see now is a lot of people wanting to take more attention to that and put importance on like, okay, if you are mentally healthy, you are going to be better able to perform and do what you want to do on a daily basis, whether it's in their sport or not. And I think that as a team, we find that really important, right? Like we want our clients to succeed in their life on and off the court, on and off the field. And so that just starts with like a mental, like healthy, taking care of their mental health first.
Fantastic. Absolutely. So Dave, what do you want to add to that particular topic?
I think they covered it all. So I just frame it a little bit differently. I think that we as a medical practice see people that come with problems, and oftentimes it's illness and mental illness, and I would and then the goal is to help them like all doctors. We're 3 doctors here in different specialties, but we're helping them to heal, to get better, and also learn how to stay healthy. Now, as Vong and Anastasia said, there are critical components to getting well, but there are important components to staying well. And those components, as they were beautiful, I'll just reinforce the idea, is my take is the number 1 component for good mental health is sleep. And without good quality sleep, people don't do well. And there's lots of studies about this, and you can think of NASA's been studying this ever since NASA existed, because how sleep is important for astronauts. But it's critically important for athletes of all ages, from little kids up to adults. And every parent knows if your kid isn't sleeping, it's going to be a bad day. And so that's a critical element that takes a lot of discipline. Nutrition is incredibly important, and for athletes, but for mental health. Um, uh, Physical exercise, as Pong said, and Anastasia noted, is essential. We're not plants. We move. Our whole body is about how we move and how we move with intention. We're social animals. Humans need to be around other humans and have to have positive social relationships. So you try to build all of these components. We have to have a sense of purpose. This is one thing that athletics gives us as well, is a sense of purpose, a sense of focus. And it's really important to have quiet reflective time, a time to pull it all together. And we try to teach our athletes all of these skills and get the balance in these skills so they can go out and do their sport. Now, sports are about being physically strong and coordinated and strategic, but it all comes with how well you manage anxiety and focus. And that comes with discipline and training and good coaching and feeling comfortable and competent. As Anastasia, you have to be deliberate and you have to hang in there. I love youth sports. It's like my passion is to develop healthy youth sports for everybody. And I have such a strong feeling for the MAC and for the foundation. Is that every kid deserves this, because this is an opportunity to help them build their life and health in their life that's going to last forever. And the metaphors they'll get from sports will last throughout their entire life about, how do you lose? That's an important one, right, Vaughn? Losing is wonderful because it's the process of learning. How do you learn? How do you win? How do you include other people in your win? How do you celebrate? How do you commiserate? All of these social events happen in our lives, oftentimes through our sporting experience. So it's important that we develop these opportunities to have this healthy experience for our kids and our adolescents, and also as adults throughout our entire lives, even the more senior than I, if there are any. But it's a long answer, but it's a big question. And so I always put it, health is there, but then there's mental health that gives it purpose. And so we work with all the medical professionals and sports medicine docs to help the health and mental health of athletes, particularly, and that's why we started the center, to focus on the specific and unique needs of athletes of all ages.
Thanks, Dr. Day. Beautifully said. With passion and compassion. And that is, you can see why, as Dr. Dave and I have been talking about this in Sunday morning spin classes in the community that we have there, is in talking about the Multnomah Athletic Foundation and Mind Matters, there seems to be this lovely synergy that both of us are focused on. How do you increase participation, which means making participation accessible to all kids, whether they are in an environment where they can pay to play, whether they are in an environment where they need support to be able to play. So we at the foundation focus on underserved and underrepresented youth because we want to level the playing field. We want to make sure that they have access to those opportunities, because the wealth of what you're talking about, it makes us human beings, and it makes us compassionate human beings that are going to be community members and that are going to be great parents and good bosses and business owners and elected officials and all the other things that are out there that are going to help our communities and our country be strong. So we obviously love the fact that you guys came and chatted with us. And I hope this is a series and this is just number one. And we have a further conversation along the line. But what we are going to do is kind of bring this to close today. We at the end of this video, we are also going to make sure that their website and a new video that Mind Matters has put together that helps you better understand what they do specifically as a practice and their team approach is available for you to look at. And then we'll also be able to hopefully bring you back for another conversation later, guys, and talk about something a little bit more specific so that you can get in more depth versus doing this 40,000 foot level thing that we did today. So with that, I want to wrap up by saying thank you very much for joining us. And for those, and I know all three of them are going to get on a bike, whether it's virtually or in person, and they're going to ride and move with us in the Spinathon, because this is how we support the community grant work that we do, which is getting kids active and giving them opportunities to participate in the Tri-County area around Portland. So with that, thank you all, and thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank
You're welcome.
you.
Bye, guys.